Hey you all, also hi to fellow dressmakers. You're welcome to another interesting tutorial. My name is Confidence. In this video, I'll be showing you how to make this gorgeous blouse. It's a Princess Dad Bustier blouse with underbust cutout and a patch on the shoulder. So this is beginners friendly, and if you'd like to learn how to go about the cutting and the sewing of this blouse, kindly watch to the end and let's get right into it. Now, on my pattern paper, I'll simply go ahead and mark a starting point line, and from that line, I'll be taking all the measurement that I need for these half bodies. So from the line, I'll go down to 18 inches, which I'm using as the half length. I'll mark it on this other side. Then I'll be using 13 and a half as the under bust and 10 inches as the bust point. Shoulder to 10 inches bust point. Then from shoulder to 13 and a half, that would be the under bust, and then from shoulder to 18 inches, that would be the half length. So her half length is actually 17, but you can see that the distance between the under bust to the half length is 4.5, which is just how I want it. I want the under bust cutout to be visible enough, right? Then I'll label it bust point, under bust, and then the waistline. On the shoulder line, I'll take the shoulder measurement divide by 2. Then I'll go down from that point to 8.5, which I'm using as the chest line or the armhole line. I'll mark it on both ends just to have a straight line. Then I'll connect it out just like this. Next, I'll mark the standard neckline measurement of 3 inches. Then I'll come to the armhole line and mark 1.25. That's I will be using as the shoulder slope. Then I'll connect it to the standard neckline of 3 inches like that. Then I'll come up here by 3.25. Then on that point, I'll be going in by ½ inch. Then I'll just go ahead and connect it straight to the shoulder tip just like this. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to take the bust span measurement. That's where we'll be taking the dart. I'll mark it on the waistline and on the bust point, then I'll connect it this way. On both sides of this line on the waistline, I'll be taking in 0.75, that is 1.5 total. Then on the under bust, I'll be taking in 0.825 going to the center front, then 1.1 on going to the side front this way. Then I'll use my pattern master, the curvy part, to curve it going to the bust point this way. I'll curve this other part. Then I'll use this part of this curve to connect from the under bust to the 0.75 I have on the waistline, just like this. It's as simple as that. The next thing I'll do now is to take the bust measurement divide by 4. I'll go to the waistline and take the waist measurement divide by 4 plus the 1.5 that intake. Then I'm going to connect it this way. After connecting it, I'll come down from the bust point by 2 inches. I want to use 2 inches for the bust dart. I usually use 1.5 for this person, but since the half length is 18 inches, I would be using 2 inches. Then the next thing I will do now is to go ahead and complete the rest of the armhole curve just like this. Now, from the shoulder tip, from the shoulder slope down, I'll be marking 4 inches. Then I'm going to connect from the bust point, the dart line there, going to that 4 inches. Make sure that this part is not too curvy. You don't want it too curvy at this point. Okay. Then the next thing I'll do now is to measure this line, just this line that I just drew. I'll measure it this way. Then I will tilt my measuring tape. Can you see? Tilt it this way until you have that same measurement you just measured. Then you're going to mark it out. Then I'll be going in 1 inch from the previous line that I have there. Then the curving is also important. You can see how I'm trying to curve it to meet the other curve I already have from the under bust to the bust point. By the time you're done, you should have something like this. Can you see that? Then I'll be using this part of the pattern master to curve the armhole. Make it as deep as possible if you can, but just make sure the armhole curve is as smooth as this. I'll clean up the other armhole line because we will not be needing it. Then I'll be doing the neck width. I'll be using 4 inches as the neck width, and for the neck depth, I'll be using 3.5. You can do 4 by 4. Then on that 3.5, I'll be going in by 1 inch this way. Then I'll start again from the shoulder and go down to, I'll be doing 8 inches as the total neck depth. Don't worry, when I connect it, you will know what you're going for. I'm going to use this curve to connect it this way. Then I'll find the best part of this curve to connect the other part from the 3.5 to the 8 inches we have down, just something like this. So this 1 inch, by the time I open it, is going to be 2 inches. So if you want to do 0.75, that means by the time you open it, is going to be 1.5, but 1 inch works for any size. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do now is to create out a space for the back pattern. I use 10.5 to create a space for the front. I'll be marking the same 10.5 on this point and connect it, and that will be the space for the back. We'll go back to the front, don't worry. Then I will extend the starting point line. I'll now start from that line and go down to 16 inches, and that would be the half length for the back. Remember, we used 18 inches for the front half length, and I used 2 inches as the bust to that. So technically we minus 2 inches from 18 inches and we have 16 inches left. I'll go ahead and mark it on both sides, then connect it this way. So it's pretty simple. Can you see, if I measure from that 16 inches to the front half length, it's 2 inches, and that's the same 2 inches we use as the bust dart. Next, I'll start from the shoulder line and take the shoulder measurement, divide by 2. Then I'll go down to 8.5. I already have the line there. Then I'll connect it out this way, and this will be the armhole. Next, I'll be taking 3 inches standard neckline and the actual neckline of 4 inches. I just want to fasten this up. Then 1 inch slope for the back, and then 4 inches as the neck depth. You should do 1.5, please. That was a mistake. You will see how I corrected that mistake later on in this video. But here I have 4 inches, which is not what you're supposed to have. You should have 1 inch or 1.5. I'll come to the waistline and come in by 1 inch, and that's what I'll be using to blend in the center back, since the center back is not straight, right? Then I'll start from this new line and take the bust measurement, divide by 4. I'll go to the waistline and take the waist measurement, divide by 4. There is no dart for this back. You can decide to add that if you want, but I'll just leave it this way. The center back contour line is already enough for me. Next, I'll measure the midpoint of this line and mark it. Then on that point, I'll be going in by 0.25. I'll connect it straight from that point going to the shoulder tip, just like this. Then I'll use this other curvy part of this pattern master to curve the other part of the armhole. Now I'll go ahead and add the zipper allowance. I usually forget if I don't add it on the pattern, so I'll just add it now. If you have your 1.5 neck depth, you're going to extend it the same way I did for this 4.5. But remember, I say 4.5 is not what you're supposed to have, because there will be collar on the neckline, and there's no way the collar will be going to the neckline and you have the back neck depth 4.5. So just do 1 inch or 1.5. I'll show you how I corrected the mistake later. Okay, now I'll go ahead and separate the front and back pattern this way. Then after that, I'll simply go ahead and cut out the back pattern, so we'll go back to the front pattern.
It's only been a few days. I set my eyes on you, babe. Is it love at first sight?
Now to go the front pattern, I'll simply go ahead and just remember the underbust cutout. But regardless, we should close the bust dart before doing that. So blend in the sharp point on the bust point this way. I will open the dart all the way to the bust point, then I'll close the bust dart just like this. I'll fold it in just like this, then I'm going to tape it down with my sellotape just this way. Now I will go ahead and blend in the side line, and then we'll do the underbust cutout. So from the underbust, I'll be going up 2 inches. That's 2 inches. Then I'll be using the curve to connect to that 2 inches. This will not give me what I want, so I'll be using this other one, and I'll place it this way just to find the perfect line. Then I'll connect it just like this, and that's basically it for the underbust cutout. I'll go ahead and complete the rest of the cutting. Just watch where and how I'm cutting this.
When under lights, see the mess you made. 1, 2, in love with you. 3, 4, I'm on the floor, come pick me up, oh, and tell me you know for sure.
What do you want me believe if
What
you
do
know
I want
believe?
believe?
I'm not deceived,
Oh,
I'm
I'm
not
not
deceived.
deceived.
And my love go past the love you give me. If I follow your hand, I beg delete. What do you want me believe if you know?
So this is what the pattern looks like complete. Can you see that? And then I'll simply go ahead and cut it from the underbust just to separate it. And before cutting the side, I will go ahead and label it just so I do not misuse the sides of the pattern. I'll go ahead and cut it out this way, and you can see what we have. The side is now looking like a corset cup, but it's not. Then the next thing I'll do now is to go ahead and tape this one down. Can you see? Just go ahead and tape the underbust cutout down this way. It should be one piece, right? And after taping it down, I'll simply go ahead and cut out the excess I have on the silver tape. Just make it be all right. And this is what the full pattern looks like. Simply go ahead and label it again under bust. Then we'll go ahead and transfer all of this to the fabric. Okay, so I'll be using this velvet sequence for the underbust cutout and then the patchwork on the shoulder, right? I'm going to simply use this pattern to cut out on this fabric. You can decide to use plain fabric, then you bead. They're beaded on the reference style, but I'll just be using this velvet sequence. Then I'll be using the Ankara to cut all the other parts. It was while cutting the back pattern that I and I remember this was supposed to be turtleneck and not the neckline being low like this. So I'm going to patch that neckline with a fresh paper. I'll slide in a paper this way, then I'll tape it down, and then I'm going to minus that 4 inches that I used earlier and mark the 1.5. I told you you can use 1 inch or 1.5. I want to use 1.5. So I'll simply go ahead and do it as you can see me do it here. It's very simple. I have the zipper allowance now. Then I'm going to use my curve to connect from the neck width to the 1.5 I just marked here. You shouldn't even be going through all this process if you just marked your 1 inch or 1.5 while cutting, but I totally forgot. And then when I try to see if I did it right, I have my 16 inches half length and then the 1.5 on the neckline, even though it's looking weird. So I'll go ahead now and cut out the pattern. Then I would yeah, cut it on the fabric with my allowance. I already pinned it down on the fabric, so I'll just simply go ahead and add my allowance. I already have the zipper allowance, so there's no need adding allowance on that point. Half inch all around. Then on the side I have my 1.5 closing allowance. On the armhole I just did 0.25 stitching allowance. You can decide to even ignore the armhole part. Now this is what the front pattern looks like. You can already see another mistake I made. I will let you guess. To cut the flare, I'll fold the fabric this way. You're going to cut is a 360-degree flare, right? Then you're going to cut it in a way that you have excess so that you can add tiny pleats or gathers or even both pleats, but it's just a 360-degree. So I'll fold my fabric this way in a way that it will contain the radius and then the length of the flare I'm going for. Now I'm going to first mark the length I want, and I will just mark 10 inches. Okay, I will mark 10 inches as the length of the peplum. So by the time I'm done joining to the waistline and sewing it, turning it on the down part of the flare, I will have 9 inches left. Then I will mark from the tip to that 10 inches, whatever I have, I'm going to mark it all around and connect it this way. I'm not sure if you can see this chalk, this marking, but I have my radius there. I'm going to follow that radius curve and mark the 10 inches all around. Then after marking it, I will also go ahead and connect it just to make it one curve, just like this. So I measure the radius, and I think I have about 7 inches extra added to the waist measurement. I have 10.5, right? That's about 42 inches because this fabric is folded into 4. That's 42, and the waistline is 33 plus the half inch, 1 inch zipper allowance. So basically I have about 7 inches extra that I will be using to do gathers on the waistline by the time we get to that point. So I'll simply go ahead and cut it out now. And after cutting it out, you open it on one side and that side will be the center back. Then I'll be using this lining now to cut the lining for the flare. You can see there is opening on both end of the lining. I will join it on one side, but Nigeria is hard now, so we join most times. So this is what it looks like after cutting it out, and after every these are all the pieces we cut out for this blouse. I have the sleeve, which is just a basic, yeah, flare. This part will be going to the basic sleeve, and I have just a round circle there, just a full circle. Then this is the back pattern. I'm using same fabric as the lining. This is the underbust cutout, which I have the lining and then the velvet sequence as the fashion fabric, and I interface both with one layer of paper stay. This is the peplum, which contains one layer of paper stay on both fashion fabric and then the lining. And this is the center front. I'm using same fabric too as the lining, and this is the side. Did you guess right? What do you think was the mistake on this side front? And this will be the collar. And I have two pieces of that using same fabric as the lining. Of course you should have it like that. It's your collar, so you don't want another fabric showing. And this is just the basic sleeve that the flare will be going to, and the length should be from your shoulder to your elbow measurement. And that's all of the pieces. Now let me show you how to go about the collar. So you're going to take your front and back pattern this way, measure around the neckline, and you're also going to measure the back part, just as you can see me do it here. Then you take your fabric and fold it like you want to cut a full circle. You can just decide to fold this in bias, which I usually do, but this method also works. Okay, so I'm going to like use my measuring tape to see which part of this fabric, like this folding, will give me what I measured on the neckline, and I marked it. Now the mistake I made is I did it exactly, which is not what you should do. Make it in excess so that you trim out if there is excess and it will relax on the neckline. That's the only mistake I made on mine. I did exactly the measurement, which is not what I should do. This is not my first time of using this method, but I don't know how all of this happened, and I accept my mistake. Okay, so don't repeat the same thing I did. Instead, follow the same process, but just make the radius you measured on the neckline while measuring it on the fabric this way. You make it in excess so that by the time you're done, you're simply going to trim off the excess and it will relax on the neckline and not hanging like mine was hanging. Okay, the length of the collar should be 2 inches, and remember to add your half-inch extra allowance on the down part. That will be the folding or the joining allowance. And after that, I measured it on the neckline. You can see it's looking well, just that it's not relaxed on the neckline. So after doing the method I said you should do, after cutting it out this way, you're going to measure it all around on this part you see me measuring, and you will see that you have excess. So that excess, you're going to mark it this way and then use your ruler to connect it going to the neckline. Just slant it this way. There is no need making it straight. You just have to relax on the neckline. Just go ahead and follow the same process and it will come out well. In the next video, we'll be joining all of these pieces together, and I'll see you in my next one. Be good. Bye.